Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, guys. Today, we're going to be reacting to some videos that have been going around. Okay, so some months ago, it was first Dr. Shabi Ali. He was talking about, is Islam the only path to God? So the question is about salvation, and what about the disbelievers, and who are the disbelievers? Are some of them saved, and things like that? So I wanted to make a video that time, but I was like, okay, I was waiting. Then another debate just happened about between Dr. Javad, there's a doctor, his name is Dr. Javad Ashmi, and Dr. I think what's his name? I'll put his picture in the thumbnail. Okay, so there was a debate about this also, that is Islam the only truth, and are other people saved too, and things like that. So I think Dr. Javad is like a pluralist. He believes some people are saved and things like that. Even Dr. Shabi Ali, from the video he made, he seems to be saying that it's not just Islam that is the only path to God or something like this. And a lot of people were reacting to that video that, why would you be saying that, and things like that. This is a very sensitive topic, and if you have not given it a lot of thought, you might not actually understand what's going on. You might be like, why is that guy saying this? You might think it's nonsense. But if you actually think about it and try to think deeply about it, you start to see like, okay, there's something there actually. So we're going to talk about, I'm going to give you some of my own views on this issue, because I was actually, before that, I have been thinking about this for a long time. I used to discuss with some of my friends, and I used to be like, the argument is valid actually. Okay, so without wasting too much time, let's get into the video. So the argument is Islam the only path to God? You know what? Someone should be able to answer and say, yes, Islam is the only path to God. But remember, what is Islam exactly? Okay, what is Islam? Okay, how do you define Islam? I've seen many people in the Dawah scene, when they want to talk about Ibrahim alayhi salam, or Adam, or all the prophets before, they will say everyone came with the same message. The same message, Islam, the truth. All the messengers came with the same message. What was that message? To believe in Allah, to stop believing in shirk and things like that. So that's what most people, if they want to talk about the previous Anbiya, they will talk about how all of them call to the submission to God. So it seems to be like this submission to God. But today you find out there are other clauses that traditionally is important and is valid also, that people have added, and whoever doesn't follow that will be considered as a kafir. We're going to also talk about what does kafir mean. Okay, so I've broken my argument into three parts. The first part is we're going to talk about clarity. What does clarity mean? Okay, the second part is we'll talk about more about what is Islam. The third part is the clarity too. The second part is about also clarity. I will explain to you what clarity means. So just stay tuned, guys. Take your time, think about these things, don't just react. Okay, if you've not given it a lot of thought, don't just jump out and start talking. Okay, and also just take your time, guys. Take your time. We're going to speak about it together. So the first one is about clarity. Okay, so this is what it means. When something has become clear to you, that's a clause. When something has become clear to you. Now, what does that mean? The truth comes and it becomes apparent to you, and you reject the truth. Okay, this is the people that we're talking about. If something becomes clear to you and you reject it, you are definitely a kafir. Okay, if the truth comes to you and you see it, you recognize the truth, and then you reject it, you're definitely a kafir. Okay, so that's the important clause I'm saying in this first part. No, now, all the people involved in this argument, whether it is Dr. I think his name is Shadi Masri, I remember his name now, Shadi Masri, Dr. Javad, or even Dr. Shabi Ali, none of them should be making a kind of definitive statement. This is my own opinion on this issue. When you make a definitive statement, is, for instance, you say these people are definitely saved, you give them closure like, yeah, it's okay. Or you are saying they are definitely not saved. You cannot say that. You cannot give assurance to any one of them that you guys, even though you are not this, you are still saved. You cannot do that. And the other ones too, you cannot say definitely you are not saved. You cannot say that. Okay? Because everything Allah decides anyway. But we are going to go deeper into it. Now, why can't you say this? Because you don't know people. You don't know their hearts. Only Allah knows people and their hearts. Only Allah knows when something is clear to somebody and he rejects it. You cannot know that. If you go, your task is to just go and present it. If that thing becomes clear to him and he rejects it, he's a kafir, and only Allah will know that. But if it doesn't become clear to him, you cannot decide anyway. You cannot know if it's clear to him or it's not. So how can you make a judgment on that? So because of this reason, what if, so you have to think about these things. What if Islam is actually clear to everybody and they are rejecting it? Definitely they are kafir. So in that case, if you're a pluralist, your argument cannot work. If it is true that it is clear to everybody and Allah sees that and it's clear to them and they are rejecting it, they are definitely kafir. But because we cannot know this, because only Allah knows this, it will curb us from making blanket statement like they are definitely kafir. You cannot say that either. Okay, so that's the first point. When it has become clear to you, what if it is not clear to you? Are you still kafir? That's the question. Now, the second point is about Islam. So we are asking the question, what is Islam? Like I said in the beginning, if you define Islam as those who believe in Allah, okay, and the messenger, okay, so this is the second clause that people are going to add. Those who believe in Allah and the messenger. Traditionally, Islamically, this is what we believe. You have to believe in Allah, and not just that, you have to believe in the messenger that was sent to you. Okay, this is a must. You cannot believe in Allah and reject the messenger. This is a traditional stance on this issue. So now, I thought about it like, okay, so if you define Islam, I told you Islam is about monotheism, establishing monotheism, establishing justice, no shirk, okay, no polytheism. Monotheism, you worship only God, and what's it called? You establish justice, or some people even say no superstition. Okay, so these are some of the foundations of Islam. The messengers, they came to call to these things. This is what they came to call for. So the arguments from the other side will be, what is the foundation of the religion? Is it not just to call to these things? So if you find the people that are already upon these things, let's say you find the people, they're already monotheists, okay? They don't do shirk, they don't worship any other God but God. So, and they are just, for instance, they establish justice on the land. Are they the same as people that are polytheists and don't establish justice and they worship other gods? Are they the same? We'll be like, they are not the same. So the thing that seems to be the contention here is that they are doing something. They are rejecting the messenger. Okay, so some people say, they are rejecting the messenger, therefore they are still kafir, even though they believe these things. This is what people will say. So now we need to dissect this argument into two parts. Let's think about the Ahlul Kitab, okay, the Jews and the Christians, for instance. Many people will agree that in the time of Musa alayhi salam, the Jews were Muslims. Yeah, the Jews were Muslims. In the time of Isa ibn Maryam, alayhi salatu wassalam, the Hawariyun, they were Muslims. The followers, the disciples were Muslims, right? They were upon the haqq because they believe in Allah and His Messenger, right? Now, what happened is that, according to the Quran, and what happened is that deviation. Some people, some people started changing the book, okay, intentionally. Some people started doing that. Some people started adding doctrines like the Trinity and things like that. That is falsehood, which the Quran came to clarify. Some people started doing some of this, and so deviation. The first one is some people deviated, but you cannot say all of them deviated because we know not all of them did this. It's not all of them that believe in even all the books of the gospel. Not all of them believe in the Trinity. Not all of them believe in the incarnation. Not all of them did this, okay? So if this is true, that not all of them did this, so some of them were still holding on to the correct understanding, okay? So you cannot lump them in together with the ones that deviated. Now, the ones that deviated are clearly kafir, and Allah knows them. You guys change the book with your hands, you are definitely kafir. You cannot make an argument for them. Those people in that time, okay, I'm adding time to it, okay? Those people in that time that did this, they will be judged based on what they did, and they will receive their punishment. Now, what about some people that were still holding on to the truth? They believe in one God. They don't believe Jesus is the Son of God. They are literally even people till today. There are some Christians I know, they don't believe in the Trinity. They don't believe in the incarnation. They don't believe Jesus is the Son of God. They don't worship Jesus. These people are monotheists. Whatever you want to say about them, they are monotheists. And they don't even worship other gods. So these people, they are not the same as the ones that do this. Okay, so now, what will be their own problem? Their own problem will be that they are rejecting the messenger. So their charge will be, yeah, but you rejected the messenger. Now, the second question is, imagine we are still in that time of like when the prophet was coming. When the Prophet came, he came with haqq, the truth, okay? This is Islamic stance, okay? He came with the truth and he gave them the truth. If one of those people that were still holding on to, that didn't deviate, the people that already deviated, they will not accept and they will just become kafir. They have already become kafir a long time ago. Now, the people that didn't deviate, the people that were still holding on to the haqq, in that time, when the Prophet ﷺ gave them the message, if the message became clear to them and they rejected it, then they are kafir too. Because remember what we started with, it becomes clear to you and you reject it, you're kafir too. Okay? So that clause is always there. But if it didn't become clear to them, okay, for some reason, there are many reasons we can give why it might not be clear to them. Okay, I said this in one of my arguments, like, if the Prophet ﷺ is giving the message compared to me giving the message, is it the same? Only Allah most people say it's not the same because it's the Prophet ﷺ. He has proof he can give the best da'wah, right? Okay, and in the Quran, it seems to be like the people he was giving it to, they understood what he was saying, they got it, and they rejected it. That's why they're kafir. Okay, now, so some people, they just deviated and they're just kafir, straight up. Some people, they deviated and they rejected the messenger, still kafir. Some people, they didn't deviate on what was revealed to them. But when the messenger came to them and the truth became apparent to them, they didn't follow. So those people are still kafir too. But what if some of them, it didn't become clear to them for so many reasons? Maybe they didn't receive it directly from the Prophet and things like that. And this will tie in with the last argument I will make. Okay, so you're already seeing like it's much more complicated than you think. If you add that clause, when something becomes clear to you, if something is not clear to you, should you be blamed? Maybe some people will say you'll still be blamed, it doesn't matter. But some people will be like, no, if something is not clear to you, we are somewhere in the forest. Imagine one of the disciples of the Prophet, Prophet Isa, alayhi salam. He traveled to like India, for instance. He's in India. And the Prophet ﷺ came and the message didn't reach him. Some people even say if the message doesn't reach people, they will be judged. Allah will judge them. That's why I said you cannot make a definitive statement. You cannot say definitely they are saved or definitely they are not. Even though some people will say if the message didn't reach them, you cannot call them kafir, because to be a kafir will be it became clear to you, it reached you and you reject it. You cannot be a kafir in ignorance, like you didn't know, the message didn't come to you. How can you become kafir? And it's not something like definitive. I'm talking about people that didn't deviate, okay? Now, that's the second argument. The third argument I'm going to make is going to be a little bit controversial. But remember, my own stance from the beginning is that I'm not making any definitive statements. I cannot give people closure. I'm not God. I cannot tell you are saved and you are not. I cannot say that. You can, and most people will even agree to this. That's why people don't make takfir of individuals. They cannot say this guy is definitely a kafir. They can say the kafir will go to Jannah and the believers will go to Jannah. They are 100% sure. But if you want to point fingers to a particular person, it's much more difficult to do. So I'm not making any definitive statement. This second argument goes like this. I've been thinking about this. So it goes like this. It says there's a difference between the generation that encountered the Prophet, okay, compared to the generations later. Okay, there's a difference between the generation that were the ones deviating, the ones changing the book with their hands, the ones bringing all those doctrines and all those things. There's a difference between them and the generations that will come later, that will take these doctrines as if they are dogma. They will think this is the right thing. They are not the ones that formed it. They just think this is the right thing to follow. There's a difference between them and the ones that actively did it, and the ones that encountered the Prophet directly and he told them directly, compared to the ones that will come later. There will be some kind of skepticism from the people that will come later compared to the ones that encountered the message and it became clear to them. But remember, always remember this clause, when it has become clear to them. So if I'm giving dawah to somebody, I will just try my best. I'll just tell him, I'll persuade him to become a Muslim and tell him, don't do this, one is wrong, the Quran said don't do this, and I will leave it at that. If it becomes clear to him and he rejects it, he's a kafir. But if it doesn't become clear to him, how can I judge that? How can I call him a kafir? Do you see why it is not as easy as you think? So this last argument is saying that, so there's a generation that the message became clear to them and they rejected it. Now, when the Prophet's time is gone, some scholars, maybe you don't accept them. They have made an argument that only the people that lived in the time of the prophet, there's a particular, what's it called? There's a difference between them and the people later, because then the revelation came upon them, and it was for them. It was in their context, and they rejected it. Like some of the things that were happening, like Battle of Badr, like things that were happening, it was active. It was an event that was, the suburb was there. Why it was revealed? It was actively revealed to them directly, and they rejected it. After it has become clear to them, these people are definitely kafir. Now, for the people later, some people want to make an argument for them that but remember, if even them, it became clear to them and they rejected it, they will still be kafir. There's nothing you can do. But if it didn't, if it's not clear to them, if we are not presenting it the best way, if, for instance, a Christian or somebody that is not a deviant, for instance, someone that believes in God and the messenger of God, okay, he believes in God, monotheism, he's not a mushrik, okay, and he just take dogma because he doesn't even know which one is true or not, and he has been living in one particular area. Now he meets a group of terrorists, for instance, and these terrorists, they want to give him dawah to Islam, and he sees them like this is definitely not justice, and he rejects it based on that. You see, like, you'll be like, okay, it's not clear to him. It's not clear to him. But when the Prophet gives you, it's a different situation. Do you see why some people want to make an argument for those kind of people? But I think we should end it with this video. So remember, the main important thing that will help you, anybody making anything about this whole issue of salvation and thing, no one is in charge of this thing. We only know general stuff. We cannot know specific things. We can make some kind of demarcation that, okay, don't do shirk, okay, believe in one God. Those are things that they are foundation. Believe in one God, don't do shirk, don't establish justice, things like this. Now there are other things too that might be required, and if it becomes clear to you and you reject it, Allah knows you, and He knows you reject it, He will hold you accountable for it. But if you don't know, Allah will judge. So that's where you have to leave it at. If you're someone making definitive statements that there's no way we can interpret it another way, these people are definitely kafir, then you're on the day of judgment. If you're wrong, what do you have to say for yourself? You know? And there are many verses in the Quran, like I could have quoted, but I just wanted to establish that principle for you. Like, for instance, both of them will quote different verses, like when the Quran says Islam Adina, or Islam is the deen, whoever brings any other religion other than Islam. Remember, it depends on your definition of Islam. If we define Islam as monotheism, and like what we said, some people that are not traditionally Muslim, they will fall into that category too. And there are other verses that talks about, like وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ لَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. It talks about the إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ عَادُوا النَّصَارَى وَالصَّابِئِينَ, and it goes like that. It talks about those people that believe in God, that they will have no fear. Some people say they will try to explain it. No problem. But remember, the main thing is the message clear to you and you reject it, you're kafir. Wherever you are, and by the way, to end this, some people think this only applies to the disbelievers or the Christians. What about intra-Islamic stuff? What about the Shia and the Mu'tazila and many other people? Like, what about them? That you think they're definitely wrong? Are they still Muslims? Yeah, they're Muslim. Are they saved? You know, you can keep asking these questions. There's another verse that they brought up, like that verse where it talks about min al-kitabi. Some people say it means he's talking about there are some kafir min al-kitab, from the people of the book, which the opposite would be there are some of them that are not kafir, but some people say it means all of them, which was the whole argument. So you can already see both sides. What would be the argument? The first side would be like, if you reject the messenger, you are kafir. Okay, you cannot reject the messenger and still think like, but what does it mean to reject the messenger? Are you rejecting him when it has become clear to you or not? That's the next question. The other side will try to found some kind of foundation, like what I said about monotheism and justice and things like that, to accommodate more people. But at the end of the day, none of you can decide. Nobody can decide these things. So don't make definitive statements. Just make that, like what I just said. If something becomes clear to you as the truth and you reject it, then you'll be held accountable. Whoever you are, whether you're Muslim or you're Christian or whoever you are, if it becomes clear to you and you reject it, you'll be held accountable to it. And what about some people? They block. So, like I say, there's some people, the message do not reach them. Some people will give them like, okay, this guy's the message do not reach them. And by the way, Christians are discussing the same issue too. Now there are some people, they don't want to learn. They don't want to even hear the message. They'll be held accountable to. And they can even be careful, because why are you blocking the truth? You should have listened to it and accommodated it. God will ask you, why didn't I send you the message? You blocked it. Okay, that's another group of people. Now there's some. The message became clear to them. They saw it and they rejected it, and they fought against it, and they actively tried to destroy it. Those people are kafir. Do you see? So it's much more nuanced than most people think. And I've tried to explain this to many people. They don't still get it. Okay? But at the end of the day, just remember what we started with. As it become clear to you and you rejected it, then you'll be held accountable. If you reject the truth, you're kafir. It's as simple as that. If it is not clear to you, Allah will judge on the day of judgment. So with this, let's end the video, guys. See you guys later. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.